Welcome in, One Nation, to another episode of the Hive podcast. TJ Winger, joined by Christina Harris this week. Christina, thank you so much for taking the time to join me.
Thank you for having me.
So, Christina, you're obviously coming off a huge milestone. You picked up career singles win number 100 a week ago against Virginia Wesleyan, an 8-1 win for the team, and then got win 101 against Randolph-Macon. But, I kind of wanted to take this opportunity to not just highlight that moment and that milestone, because this has been, years in the making for you. So let's just kind of start all the way back. Your intro to tennis. When and where did you learn to kind of learn and embrace the game, and when did that love basically first start?
I started playing tennis when I was 5. I'm not really sure how I got into it, other than I remember just watching it on TV. I think Wimbledon was on, and I went to my parents and I said, I want to play that. And so it was kind of weird because no one in my family had ever played tennis before, so it was very new to my parents as well. And then I just kind of started taking lessons, and then 2 years later when I was 7, I started playing tournaments. So I was kind of brought into the atmosphere of competitiveness when I was so young, and so I think that definitely has given me an advantage in a way, because I just learned from such a young age what it takes to win.
Yeah, and getting into a competitive atmosphere at that young of an age, that is, immediately when you say that, I'm like, wow, I was probably fighting with my little brother for Legos or whatever, and
right.
You're out here playing tennis matches. That is amazing. So, your next steps, you're put onto that, tournament scene. You're learning how to do, what it takes to win matches at an early age. That's awesome. And then, as you get older, you're presumably playing, at the high school level and whatnot. But, what are some of those next few steps? Were there any people along the way that you're like, I would not have been able to do it without this coach or this support system or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. My coach, Paulo, from back home, he started coaching me when I was 12. And I still take lessons with him when I'm home on breaks and stuff sometimes, so I definitely would not have played college tennis if it was for him. I kind of honestly got into a period of time when I was in middle school where I was like, I don't know if I want to play tennis anymore. I feel like an athlete, it's natural for them to go through that phase at some point or another, but he really helped me through that and was just like, you're just going through a rough patch right now, and he kind of helped me take my game to the next level. And so that really helped me. And also when I got to college, obviously my sophomore year when Coach Johnson came in, I definitely think that I never would have been nationally ranked if Coach Johnson wasn't my coach. He's helped me through so many matches where I did not think I was going to win, and he would always say to me, you have the ability to fight for this, you just have to believe it yourself. And so just him supporting me on the sidelines through every point, even big 3-set matches. I honestly can't thank him enough for everything that he's done for me, especially in big matches. So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk more about Coach Johnson here in a moment, but even just with the sport itself, I've asked a couple of student athletes the same question, but you look at swimming or cross country or tennis, golf. It's it's team based, and there are team rankings and ways to win it, as the University of Lynchburg or
right.
Elsewhere. But it's you in your head competing, and you have doubles play too. So tennis kind of has that extra layer of a teammate being involved in that well. But I think one of the hardest things you have to juggle as a tennis player is not letting your head maybe get too far ahead of yourself if you're playing really well and you're out in front of a match, or if it's the other way around, it's like, okay, well, I'm starting to fall behind. Don't panic though. How do you handle that mental aspect to being a tennis player, specifically in those singles matches where it's you talking to yourself, thinking through what you're seeing in that type of setting?
Yeah, college tennis is interesting because, like you said, it is a team sport, but singles, you're kind of on your own out there. You have a court designated for you, and I think there's a lot of matches where I start off the match really well, and I win the first set 6-1, and then I'm down love 3 in the second set. And so honestly, tennis is just one of those sports where the game can change in an instant, and you can have an opponent that gets really riled up after a few really good points, and they just start playing a lot better, and that's just how it goes. And how I handle that is I just go back to basics. I take it point by point, and I just tell myself, you're going to fight for this game, and if you can get to this game and you can get to 3-all, then that's when the momentum switches over back to me. So I think just constantly just making adjustments and never think you win a match until that last point is played, because there have been so many matches where I have been down and able to come back even after being down like 5-0. So it's definitely possible. Anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean, even just the aspect that you go from one set to the next and the score's going to reset, you're back to love. Like it's not like baseball. We're going to play 3 innings and you don't get to the 4th and it's 0-0 all of a sudden. It's like, oh, Lynchburg won the first, whatever. Yeah, so that's kind of an interesting aspect to where it's just like, hey, maybe you do win that first set 6-1 and you're dominant. Great. But you got to be able to lock back in. So one of the other things I wanted to ask you, and I feel like this is an interesting exercise, look back at yourself maybe as a middle school player, maybe where you were as a high schooler, and look at yourself now. Do you play the same brand of tennis? Are your strengths still the same? Or over the course of time, have you learned, okay, I got to be better in this area, or I've got to become a better tennis player here? Or do you see yourself as pretty similar? You've just gotten better and smarter and you've kind of grown up along the way?
As far as strengths, my forehand has always been, like, we call it just like my money shot, honestly, because I can pretty much from anywhere on the court, I feel like I rely on my forehand to put me in an offensive position during the points. One thing that I never had growing up, which I do now, is backhand slice, and I use it all the time now. It's very effective in college tennis because it forces them to bring the ball from the ground up. And a lot of women tennis players, we don't like to do that. We like to have a ball right in our strike zone. So that has definitely been like the best thing I think I've changed throughout my game. But overall, I have always been kind of an aggressive counter puncher. It's kind of how I like to describe my tennis game. But I think I've definitely elevated it since middle school.
Yeah, sure. And, your college resume might back you up on that.
Yeah.
But, even, talking about, college. So, why the University of Lynchburg? And what made you, after high school, say, hey, I want to play here and I want to be a Hornet?
Well, I was recruited by, actually, Coach Joey Manila when he was here. And when I came to the school, I wanted to have something where I could have a minor in like the health field and a major in the business field, because I wanted to go to grad school, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with that. And this was one of the only schools where I was able to minor in health promotion instead of having a double major somewhere. Sure. So that was a big factor. And then once I graduated, there was like no question that I wanted to come here for grad school. The faculty for the Masters of Health program is amazing, and it's nice to have like that support system where they always like they know that I play tennis here, and so they've done an amazing job like working with me and my schedule and stuff. So it's really nice playing at a school where you have like a really good support system where people like know that you have a lot going on and they have the ability to work with you. So,
and you hit on a little bit earlier, but Coach Johnson tired your sophomore year, and that's a really interesting crossroad because for some players that's okay. Well, the coach that brought me here isn't the coach anymore. I'm going to go ahead and stop playing, or whatever the case may be, or I'm going to transfer. A lot of different roads you could go, but you said, okay, well, I'm going to stick with it, and you sung the praises of Coach Johnson earlier, so it worked out pretty well for you.
Yeah.
So but talk to me about that transition from one coach to another, and maybe where the program's vision and focus you could see where it was changing and going, and maybe what was exciting as well as what was kind of scary about that time in your college career.
So when the coach I had my freshman year left and Coach Johnson came in my head I'm thinking like, oh, this is like another coach. But then when I met Coach Johnson and I saw how he coached, especially even on the first day of practice, I was like, this guy knows what he's doing. So, and we had multiple conversations of like how we wanted to get me through like big matches and stuff and how to play pressure points, and those were conversations that I hadn't had before, and so it forced me to take my game to the next level. And I think it was scary at first because obviously when you're getting a new coach and you're only going in as a sophomore, you don't really know what to expect. So yeah, I'm really glad that I stayed.
And over the course of your career, right? So you're a grad student now, 100 plus, singles wins, plenty more in doubles play, so on. So 2019 ODAC Player of the Year. Your resume speaks for itself there. And this has been, maybe if you look at any 5-6 year block of being a college athlete, maybe the most challenging that you could pick out from just about any time in American history or world history, for that matter. I mean, you had to overcome, pandemic implications for 2 different seasons on when you're going to play, if you're going to play, and you have everything that's going on in the world, social injustice and unrest and whatnot throughout the country and whatnot. And it's just kind of a tough time to be someone your age and being seen as you're a future leader. So you've had plenty to overcome, and whether it was directly, correlated with you being a college student or not, it's still things you had to overcome. So you had like 26 singles wins as a freshman, and it's like, okay, here we go. This is the start of something special. But then along the ways, you have to battle and overcome a lot of different things that are out of your control. And, you talk about tennis being such a, mental game. You're with yourself. Sometimes not having control can be something that's a little challenging with it. But, over the course from freshman year to where we are now, Alston's aside, what have been some of those biggest challenges along the way and things that have made you go, this is really tough for me to battle. This is going to take me to find another gear to have to overcome this, or, is this worth it? Some of those things along the way that really stand out as you look back at your college career.
I think honestly the biggest challenge I had was when I blew out my ankle at a tournament, my sophomore year. So my sophomore year, I went to a tournament at UNC Wilmington. It was me and Elvira was the assistant coach at the time. And I was in the second set, deep into the second set of 6-all, and I stepped on a ball and rolled my ankles. So I was out for like a good 2 months, and that was so hard for me because I played tennis every day my entire life. So I didn't know like what to do. And then when I came back in January, I just didn't feel like I was playing well, and I kind of had a rough start to the season. And Coach Johnson and Elvira and my teammates would just remind me all the time, like, how to play tennis, how to win big matches. Like, this is just something that you're going to have to, like, get back into the swing of things. And as the season progressed, I was able to move on. But, yeah, that was definitely very hard because I'd never had a serious injury growing up or anything. So, yeah, it was very different.
and it plays on that idea of being a student athlete, and that's your identity in a lot of ways, and especially someone who's as good as you are, you're a high level student athlete, you win a lot, so to have that taken away, 1 by injury and then 2 slow play once you come back, I know that had to be frustrating. And then of course, not far after, you have season canceled and lost because of COVID, and then it's moved into the spring the next, lots of people have heard that story 1,000 times, so I'm not going to go back into it. But you have the injury, those courses, and then you had to come to the decision of like, okay, I can graduate now. Do I want to continue to play? And I'd love to know what were some of the pros and cons, or was it even a decision where you saying, hey, they have the grad program I want, and I'm not done playing, or was it that simple, or was there more to kind of weigh into that?
Yeah, when I found out I had not 1 but 2 years of eligibility, I definitely wanted to play, and I picked a grad program where I'm getting my master's in public health, so I had the ability to play because the way it works is we have the first 2 semesters, you just have classes and they meet once a week, and then I was able to have a lot of free time during the day. So that ended up working out, and then now I'm just doing research in Capstone, which is online, so I have like the majority of the day to just train. So that was really nice, and I coached when I was home before my grad program started, and I just missed the competitive aspect because I had been competing so hard, especially in college, for 4 years, and going from that to being on the other side of things, I was like, I don't really like this. So I want to get back into the competitive field. So as soon as January rolled around and my spring semester started, I was ready to go.
So then as a grad student, you've continued to have a ton of success, and now we can even kind of talk about your milestone last Friday. I mean, like, that had to have been such an awesome moment, because it's not just like, hey, I won this match. Awesome. Sweet. That is, 6 years into the making, and, plenty of hurdles you had to jump over to get to that point. But, final point comes down, and literally you're the last bit of that, matchup against Virginia Wesleyan still going on. So everyone's just watching you. But once that final point, it's decided you've won. That singles win, number 100. What are some of your immediate thoughts and emotional reactions?
At first I was like, I can't believe I just took this match into 3 sets because I felt like I didn't really play well during the second set. So that was a mental milestone that I had to overcome. But yeah, when I first won it, I immediately just wanted to go to my teammates because they were running over to me. So yeah, I was really excited, and I was just kind of like, wow, I just hit 100 wins. So it was really fun and exciting, and we got Chick-fil-A after, so that was nice. It's like a celebration.
The best celebratory meal, am I right? So
yeah.
Well, and then you put that one behind you pretty quick, as then roll around. Sunday comes knocking on the door, and you go out and you pick up a win against Randolph-Macon. So that kind of leads me into some of the next things I want to ask you. But before we get into what the future of this program looks like and what's still on the horizon, so win number 100 certainly feels like one that you might remember for a while. Right. But are there any other wins across the way, singles, doubles, anything in play here? But are there any certain wins throughout your college career you look at and you're like, I will never forget? One, because it was that good, or two, because you were just that dominant that day, or because of the implications conference, whatever the case may be.
So actually a little over a month ago, I played against Ruth D'Souza from Sweetbriar, and she was ranked, I think, 8 in the region, 32 in the nation, and I played against her, and we'd played in the past too, and I lost first set 6-1, and then I was down 4-1 in the second set. And I sat on the bench, and I thought I was going to lose, honestly. I didn't know what to do in order to win that match, and Coach Reagan came over to me, and she said, it's not that you're hitting the ball, it's not that you're not hitting the ball well, you're just not playing Tina tennis, and you need to play Tina tennis. That's what all my teammates call me. And I was like, yeah, I do. So I got up, and I just knew that I needed to change how I was playing. I needed to throw in some lobs, and I needed to hit my backhand slice, and I needed to just do whatever it took to win 1 point at a time. And then I was able to come back. I won that second set 7-5, and then I won the third set. So yeah, that was a huge accomplishment for me, and it brought me back into the rankings after that. So I'm ranked 25 now, which I'm happy about. But yeah, I will definitely never forget that.
Yeah, I mean, sports information director Tim LaDuca was gushing about it the rest of that day, and then the next day he still could not, comprehend that comeback in the second set and then the ultimate win in the match. So that's good stuff. Playing Tina tennis, that's another way of putting it. You described it an aggressive counterpuncher. I like that. I'm gonna have to sprinkle those throughout my conversations around the university when talking about you, but. So let's talk about what's on the horizon for this team, right? So you're a 1-loss, team, or 2-loss if you include WNL yesterday. So this is kind of a really fun team to talk about because you also have the Give Day initiative for tennis, trying to renovate, get new courts, new home for Lynchburg tennis. So with that, plus y'all's success, and there's pieces on the men's side too. Don't overlook them. As this team kind of builds up and Coach Johnson's vision kind of settles into place, that's got to be an exciting proposition for a lot of people involved. But you're at this interesting crossroad where last year of eligibility, you look at it, it's like, well, that's really exciting. I've done a lot. But, from your perspective, looking at it as it continues to grow and what might be on the horizon, what do you see the future of both men's and women's tennis like at Lynchburg?
I definitely see it getting hopefully more successful than it is right now. Obviously, every year you look to improve. So I know next year we have some good recruits coming in, and I'm just really excited for them to just experience what playing tennis here is like. And for the returners as well, just trying to make next year their best year. And I just think that whoever is on the team next year, regardless of whether they're staying or coming in, just you always want to try and have a better season than the last. So whether that's a goal for them individually, a goal for the team, singles or doubles, doesn't matter, but just trying to make the best of each year.
Absolutely, and with that type of mindset, you got to think that success is going to continue to grow. And again, ton of credit to Coach Johnson. He's done an awesome job during his tenure, and you can only expect more big things from him on the horizon. Well, Christina, I have asked you 1,000 different things, but is there anything else that you wanted to hit on while you were here?
I don't think so. We have the ODAC tournament coming up, so that's exciting. We get home court for the first match, since we'll probably be ranked 3, I think. So That'll be fun.
So excited for the postseason action getting
Yeah.
underway, and I know that's going to be an exciting time for you, the team, and I'm excited to be able to cover it and brag all about y'all once we get to the latest buzz and whatnot. So, Christina, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Hive Podcast. Be sure to come back next week when we have a new episode for you. For Christina Harris, my name's TJ Wingert. Until next time, we are signing off.